So cylinder tumbles. What happens if you get water inside of your scuba cylinder? Well, that water is going to cause corrosion. And if that corrosion is left untreated, it is going to shorten the life expectancy of your cylinder. So we need to remove that corrosion as soon as we find it. We do that in a process we call a cylinder tumble. But before we dive into our main topic, let me introduce myself. So my name is Larry from Channel Island Scuba. Whether you're thinking about starting your open water course or you're an experienced diver just looking to level up that knowledge base, we are the community of divers asking the same questions that you are, and hopefully we're finding all the answers together. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for checking us out. And a special thank you to all of our returning divers. If the information we discussed today is of value to you, please like the video down below. And if you want to check out more, subscribe to our channel. The likes and subscribes really do go a long way to help other divers find us, and hopefully we can all add some value to their dives as well. Okay, with that, let's dive back into our main topic of cylinder tumbles. How does water get inside the cylinder in the first place? Well, quite honestly, it shouldn't. The immense pressure inside of your cylinder is going to prevent any level of contaminant from getting inside, as long as we keep pressure inside the cylinder. This is one of many reasons why your instructor probably taught you never drain the cylinder completely empty. There are the obvious safety concerns coming from draining your cylinder to empty, but in addition to that, you're also going to allow contaminants to get inside. If it's drained empty and still in the water, it's almost likely that water is going to be getting inside. Now you might be thinking to yourself right now, well, I didn't drain my cylinder empty, but this dive shop's still telling me that I need a tumble. Is there something maybe the dive shop did wrong? It's possible, but I'd say that's pretty unlikely. Most dive shops have a series of filters built into their air system. Those filters are in place to make sure moisture is not getting into your cylinder. So as long as you're going to a reliable dive center that's checking their filters adequately, which they all are, it's not likely that it's going to be your dive center's fault. So then who's to blame? If it's not my dive shop and I didn't drain my cylinder empty, where'd that moisture come from? Unfortunately, the likely culprit is the dive boat. That's right. We're in a wet environment in the dive boat. It's certainly not a controlled environment. And anytime you get a fill on board of a dive boat, you are likely getting moisture inside of your cylinder. How is this occurring, you ask? Well, if we look at our cylinder valve, we get out of the water and there's going to be water in and around the valve area. If you hook it up right away and just fill the tank, any moisture buildup in the valve is going to end up in the cylinder. So we can do things to prevent this. We can open the valve a little bit, purge some air out. That's going to clear most of the moisture out of the way. Many of the fill station operators on the dive boat do this just as habit. They open the tanks to hopefully prevent water from getting inside of your cylinder. But we live in an imperfect world, and doing this is not a guarantee. So inevitably, if you get fills on a boat, you are going to get moisture inside of your cylinder. That's the trade-off of diving it on a boat. That's just the nature of doing it. Now, I personally have cylinders that I use pretty exclusively on boats, and I do a lot of boat diving, so I know I'm going to be tumbling those cylinders every year because I'm getting the moisture inside as just the nature of going out and doing these dives. Why do we need to tumble the corrosion out of a cylinder? Why can't we just leave the corrosion there? Well, inherently, as part of the process of creating corrosion, it's going to eat away at the wall of the cylinder, leaving something we call a pit. A pit is a small hole or indent in the interior wall of the cylinder that will, over time, if it grows large enough or there grows to be too many of them, weaken the structural integrity of the cylinder. In rare cases, this could cause catastrophic failure. So we want to remove that rust before it gets bad enough to get to those levels. right? In addition to that, some of these corrosive particles can become airborne. It's possible, although extremely unlikely, that you can actually inhale some of these particles. A proper first stage does have a filter in place that's going to prevent it from actually getting into our lungs. Right? Your regulator is actually going to collect these particles. But if you have the corrosion inside your cylinder, it is going to shorten the service interval that you're going to need on your regulators. Right? That corrosion buildup will build up in your first stage and you'll need to service it earlier. So we want to prevent that corrosion from getting in our first stage in the first place. Ultimately, that means we need to get our visual inspection every year so that we can find the corrosion when it's there and get our tumble to remove it properly. At this point, I'd like to show you what an actual tumble looks like. So in front of me, I have two cylinders. One of them is an aluminum and one of them is a steel. Both of these cylinders come from a local diver of ours. Now this diver does some pretty unusual dives. They are a working diver and all of their cylinders live on board their dive boats. They do about a dozen dives a week and all of their fills come from their onboard compressor. So all of their fills are boat fills. They bring these cylinders to us every year for their visual inspection, and every year we have to do a tumble. Typically a heavy tumble for heavy corrosion. I haven't yet opened these cylinders up. I don't know exactly what we're gonna find, but I have a feeling it's gonna be pretty good. When we actually open them up, the steel and the aluminum corrosion is going to look a little bit different. Steel cylinders will have that traditional rust, that orangish brownish hue, usually like dust or speckled. We've all seen rust before, you know what it looks like. That's probably what we'll find in your steel cylinders with corrosion. Aluminum cylinders with corrosion, however, are going to have an aluminum oxide corrosion. That's more of a fine white powder. Sometimes this can look like dried salt. In fact, I've had people sometimes confuse it for dried sea salt as opposed to actual corrosion. So again, I don't know what we're gonna find, but I'm pretty eager to find out. Let's go ahead and open one of these up and let's see what's there. So we're gonna start off with our aluminum cylinder. Bring this guy over here. We're gonna get it strapped down in our cylinder vise. This will actually secure the cylinder down for us to be able to work on it. And the first thing I wanna do is get the valve off. So I'll take out my wrench and we'll give it a little, okay, this guy's on there. Oh yeah, we're gonna have some corrosion. There we go. Oh boy, yeah. Valve should not be on that tight. And in fact, I know this one was not on very tight when I put it on myself last year. We do tighten the valves down to a torque specification. So I know they're not that hard to take off. That's corrosion that was preventing me from getting it off that easily. And I can already see some corrosion on the top of the cylinder here. And oh yeah, I look at that guy. So we saw all those white marks, all the white powder. You can even tell there's a little bit of moisture built up on there. So that shouldn't be there, right? So I'm gonna start off with getting this cleaned up. Let's get a towel, kind of clean all that off. And depending on how well this will clean up, will depend on whether or not I need to do a valve rebuild or not. Actually break it down, put it through an ultrasonic cleaner. But this guy's looking pretty good. I did clean it last year, so I get a feeling the internal parts are still gonna be looking good. The threads all feel good. Yeah, and now we can see cleaned up very nicely. Okay, so I'll set this valve aside and then we'll take a look inside the cylinder itself. I have my handy dandy light stick. We'll drop it in and oh boy. Yeah, I picked the right cylinder. This is There's a lot of corrosion inside this guy. There's a lot of corrosion. Let's take a look inside and see what we have. So I have a endoscope. This actually has a physical camera on it. This way I can send clients a image of what's actually occurring inside their cylinder, so we can see immediately all over that wall. Immediately we have all sorts. I'm gonna take a few photos of this. And in case I can't pull this up later, and I'm pretty sure I'm taking a video now, but you guys can see all sorts of corrosion in there. Yeah. All right. So we'll pull that guy off. Beautiful. Okay, so definitely in very serious need of a tumble. As you guys can see, there was a lot of debris on there. In fact, I mean, I just take out my light stick and we had debris all over the light stick. So we definitely need to clean all of that out. That's definitely not something I'd want to be diving with. So we'll clean all of that off. I'm going to start off with cleaning up the top of the cylinder itself. So we actually have a lot of debris around where the valve was. That's one reason why it was so difficult for me to get off. So I'll kind of just gently scrape some of that excess corrosion off. I'm not going too overboard here. Last thing I want to do is actually start taking off real material, like aluminum material. So we have that cleaned up. I'm going to get a wire brush, kind of clean that up a little bit more. That'll take even more off. And the last thing I'm going to do is an actual gland tool. So the O-ring gland tool is actually sandpaper. So the sandpaper will clean it up really, really well. Just getting any built up corrosion off the sandpaper and give it a second run. All right, that cleaned up a little bit, cleaned it up pretty decently. So now that I've cleaned the top of the cylinder, I'm going to take a look at the threads themselves. So want to actually physically get an eye on the threads. I can see them from this angle, but I'm going to use our valve thread tool. This is essentially a magnifying angled lens to show me what the threads actually look like. So I can look in here and yeah, we have some corrosion buildup on the threads as well, especially the lower threads. So I'll need to get that cleaned up. We can't really see what it all looks like. So definitely need to clean the threads. We're not going to be able to start our tumble until we clean it. On a normal cylinder, I would just use a very simple wire brush, nothing too crazy. But we have quite a bit of corrosion on, so I'm going to use some power tools for this guy. This is a plastic bristle brush. So the plastic bristles are not going to be damaging the thread. If I were to use a wire brush and a power tool, I could be overpowering. I could actually do damage to the threads. So we're going to use plastic on it. And just... So the top of the cylinder is looking good. The threads are looking cleaner. The tumble itself will also clean the threads as well. So I'm not going to worry too much on the threads now. I'll take a second look once I'm done with the tumble and clean them up a little bit more if I need to. Maybe take that wire brush to it and get the last little bit off if I need to. But that's a good general cleaning. So now what we need to do is load the cylinder with our tumbling media. Okay, I have our tumbling media here in a bucket. So the tumbling media itself are just little ceramic balls. Okay? I'll load the ceramic balls inside the cylinder, and the cylinder will then go on a tumbler where the cylinder will just rotate for a few hours. The media inside of the cylinder will continue rotating and just knock off all the corrosion alongside the cleaning solution that we're going to be dumping in it as well. Now let me grab the tools we need to load the media inside of our cylinder. So we have our funnel. Goes right here. I have a little scoop everything up, and we'll just load it all up. So what I'm aiming for here is to get the media fuller than about halfway, a little more than half full. If I have it not full enough, then we'll end up missing spots inside the cylinder. All the last little drops in there. These round ones make a mess. And let's see where we're at. So, not quite half full. I'll add 2 more scoops just to be safe. So we have the media inside. Now I'm going to put my cleaning solution in. I do a pre-mixture of distilled water. We use distilled water so that we're not going to have any mineral buildup from the water itself. And a oxygen clean, oxygen compatible soap. This is a biodegradable, food safe soap that does not leave a film on any material. We use somewhere around 4 cups, which for our gallon is about a quarter, and we do kind of just eyeball it, to be honest with you. So now I'm going to cap it. We just have our caps with a seal. And now it's ready to go on our tumbler. So I'll just throw it over on the tumbler. There we go. And we'll let that guy just start rolling. Now we're gonna work on our steel cylinder. So let me get some things cleared out of the way, and then we'll jump back on our steel cylinder. So steel cylinders are all gonna have a plastic boot on the bottom. That's because steel cylinders have a round bottom where aluminum cylinders have a flat bottom. So aluminum will stand on its own, steel won't. So I'm gonna start off with removing the boot. I just use a simple rubber mallet to do it. So we'll just start tapping it away. All right, now we have our boot off. We're gonna set this guy aside. We'll put it back on later. Kind of check around, make sure everything under the boot looks good. It's very, very common to have corrosion buildup underneath the boot, especially salt buildup. So making sure this looks very clean. Last year I gave it a very thorough clean, so this looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we will take the valve off now. Strap her down. And let's pull this guy off. Oh yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Not as bad as the first one. No, not nearly as bad. But definitely a little bit tougher than it's supposed to be. This feels a little rough coming off. Oh, this doesn't feel too bad actually. We have a little bit of corrosion buildup. We have a lot of moisture buildup. I mean, you can see a little drop right there. So obviously we have some moisture buildup in this cylinder, and I am seeing a little bit of corrosion as well. So start off getting it cleaned up. The valve and the threads looking pretty. And here we see, you can get it cleaned up pretty nicely. Not too bad. Set the valve aside again. Throw my trash away. And let's take a look inside the cylinder. Immediately we have a lot of rust, and there is a little pool of water down in the bottom of this one. So very much some corrosion. Stick this guy down in there. I'll get a couple photos, and why don't I just show you guys. So a lot of corrosion in it. This should be a silver cylinder, right, we should be seeing silver or even gray along the edges, and we're just brown all over with that little puddle of water in the bottom. So very obviously need to get that cleaned up. Yeah. Just like the aluminum, I'm gonna start from the top, work my way inward. So I'll pull out that same little scraper, and I'll kind of scrape all of our corrosion off the top. Not too much corrosion buildup on this one, on the top actually. It looks pretty clean. I'll pull out my steel brush, clean it up. And we'll clean up the threads again with our plastic drill. So that's just gonna, again, get the very general corrosion off the threads. We're gonna need to probably give it another thorough brushing after the tumble is done with a wire brush. But we'll get the general cleanup with our plastic brush first. Now we're ready to load our media inside of our steel cylinder. Steel cylinders are going to use a different type of media. So these are cylindrical media with kind of an edge to them. So let me see if I can we can kind of see how there's a little edge there. So on all of these, that edge is gonna catch on the steel cylinder a lot better, and we're gonna get a lot more of an aggressive cleaning on it. Steel takes a little bit more oomph to get it cleaned. Aluminum cleans pretty quickly. And I mean, I leave aluminums to tumble for 3 hours. They probably don't need it. Steels need at least 3 hours, maybe longer, sometimes 2 or even 3 treatments as well. Steels take a little bit more aggression to get that rust out of it. So we're gonna load up the media into the steel. It's gonna take me longer to load this up because of those sharp edges. The media gets caught on itself very easily, getting loaded in and out. So we're just gonna time lapse this and make this go really, really quick for you. Okay, so now that we have the media loaded inside the steel cylinder, now we have to get our cleaning solution in. With steel, especially with heavy corrosions, I'm gonna play a little amateur chemist on this and actually do our mixture right now on the fly. So we're gonna have a 2-part solution here. We're gonna have distilled water, and we're gonna have a tumble juice. The tumble juice is a non-toxic, biodegradable, non-flammable cleaner for cylinders, regulators, and hydrostatic equipment. It is a acid, so we are physically eating away at the rust on the inside. We don't use acid on every steel clean, but when it's this bad, we absolutely need to use an acid solution. Now, this is a safe to breathe solution, so even if I don't get it all out, it is safe to have, but we are careful whenever we're using acid. So I'm going to measure out some distilled water. We always work with distilled water when we're working inside a cylinder to make sure we're not leaving mineral deposits in. And we're doing, what is that? 7 parts water to 1 part acid. So heavily diluted, this acid. And this is a pretty mild acid to begin with. I have accidentally spilled it on myself. I've not gotten any burns or anything like that. But pour that in. Okay. And I'm gonna do a second batch of that just because we have that extra corrosion on the inside. I wanna have a little bit extra cleaner in there as well. All right, So we have our media loaded, we have our solution loaded. We're just gonna cap it off. Then we're gonna throw it on our tumbler and we're gonna let it tumble for at least 3 hours. 3 hours is our minimum, especially with this level of heavy corrosion. I'll come back to you guys when we're ready to take it off. Perfect. The aluminum went on first, so we're gonna go ahead and pull the aluminum first. So, pick this guy up and come on over with me. All right. So I'm setting the cylinder down in our cylinder inversion rack. So this is just gonna make it a lot easier for me to flip our cylinder upside down and get the media out. These cylinders, fully weighted down with the media, can weigh up to around 100 pounds. So definitely don't wanna be doing all of this by hand, okay? So we have all this ready to go. I'm going to fill it up with a little bit of water. I kind of outfitted a gas filler to help us with water, but this is just straight tap water going into the cylinder at this point. Get our basket ready and let it roll. Okay, so now that we have all the media emptied out of it, we do need to rinse everything out. So all of that cleaner is still lining the inside of the cylinder, so we're gonna get that out. We have a commercial cylinder rinse station here that I did kind of outfit in a standard trash can. Just makes it so the water is not pouring all over the place. I used to get super wet doing this process. We've got it all consolidated now, which is pretty nice. This is, again, just standard tap water that's gonna be coming out of our hose. And we're really just giving it a thorough rinse just to get all that commercial cleaner out. Now that we have it rinsed out, it is time for us to throw it on our cylinder dryer. So we'll bring it over here. This is a commercial cylinder dryer. So it's actually going to be forcing hot air through the cylinder. It'll dry an aluminum cylinder in about a half hour. A steel cylinder takes anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the outside temperatures at the time. So now that we have this one finished up, let's go pull our steel cylinder out. We're gonna pull off our second cylinder now. The steel is ready to come off. A little bit heavier, the steel. Okay. Get the measurement right on this guy. Yeah. So just like it took longer for us to get the media into the steel because of the edges on it, it is going to take us more time to get the media out. It often gets caught on itself. So it's going to be a little bit more effort. Definitely going to time lapse this one for you guys. All right, so now we have our steel emptied out. Oh gosh, these are a lot of work. We gotta rinse these out as well. So we'll bring it over to that internal rinse. Let that go for a while. While that's happening, I'm gonna actually clean this media here. Get a little bit of your favorite dish soap, sprinkle it on in, and then we'll just hose it down. Really just trying to clean out a lot of that rust, right? This way, when we put it into a new cylinder, it's clean enough for it. And we're not gonna be adding rust from an old cylinder into a new one. Okay. I'll probably actually rinse that a little bit more later on. It takes a little bit longer than that. But let's go ahead and get this guy off of our rinse. And we're gonna throw it onto our dryer again. So now the steel will be on for about another hour or so. After that, we'll be able to take it off, do an actual visual inspection on it now that we can see down to the bare metal. If we still find rust on the inside, we're gonna need to do it all over again. Due to the amount of corrosion we saw on the steel in the beginning, I imagine we're gonna need to do it a second time around. I don't think it's gonna take on that first time. The aluminums, however, as you can see, a little bit of an easier process, and they usually take on the first time around. Even though we saw a large amount of corrosion on the inside of it, I imagine it'll probably be pretty clean once we're finished up. So at this point, I'm gonna take a second, kind of collect my thoughts, and then we will do an outro. I'll even show you guys some pictures of the end result on these ones as well. All right, cylinder tumbles. A little more labor intensive than you might have thought. Maybe a lot messier of a process than you originally thought. Yeah, definitely takes some time and some patience. As far as our cylinders today goes, the steel cylinder, well, it did end up needing a second tumble. So I'm gonna have to run it through one more round, but once it's finished up, I'll snap some photos for you. I'll put them up right over here so you can see the finished product. The aluminum cylinder looks beautiful. We nailed it on our first try. I already got some photos of that one, and I'm gonna put it up for you to check out right over here. Let me know your thoughts down below. Was it different than you expected? More of a process than you originally expected? If you do tumbles yourself, let us know what you do differently. What did you like that I did? And maybe more importantly, what didn't you like? We can all learn and grow together on this. Guys, let's start a conversation. And I'm gonna try my best to respond to all of your comments as well. If you have any questions on your personal cylinders, just reach out to your local instructor or dive center, since they're the ones who will actually be doing a tumble for you on it anyway. But if you do want to support what we're doing here at the channel, we do have a web store with things like products from our product videos, or apparel, like some of the things I'm wearing today. I'll drop a link in the description down below if you want to check that out. Once again, I'm Larry from Channel Island Scuba. Thank you so much for watching. Safe and happy diving.